Okay. The minutes are okay.
Going through everything.
That's all right. That's why I didn't, I didn't forget it.
You gotta rotate.
Just gonna whack it up there.
You can't have it.
So welcome to our September meeting. I hope everybody had a good time on our field trip in August, where we inspected and discussed some of the new bus models that Transit has in operation. In the subways, a new management structure began this week when New York City Transit President Byford rolled out the Group Station Manager Program. The program was highlighted in an event held this Tuesday and introduced a group of about 24 group station managers. This title is a new position that President Byford created for the purpose of bringing more accountability and better customer service to subway stations across the city. And those who hold it are responsible for all aspects of customer service and station environment for up to 25 stations. Earlier in his career, and much earlier actually, President Byford held that position in the London Underground. He was a group station manager. While they have offices in the areas they oversee, the group station managers are expected to spend a large amount of time personally inspecting stations and evaluating and developing strategies to improve customer service, cleanliness, safety, and other customer-facing elements in their groups. Conditions in the stations like platform edges, ADA strips, all of that. Part of this stairway treads, part of this effort will involve coordinating and interacting with the large number of transit staffers and contractors responsible for elements of the quality of station operations, although these individuals may not directly report to the group station manager. The new group station managers are being selected from internal and external candidates and report to 4 new district customer service managers based in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. They don't necessarily come from a transit background, but have relevant experience in industries such as airlines, logistics, customer service, and communications. Airlines?
Yeah.
We see how that's paying off with Richard Anderson.
Yeah, I know. It's not working out too well in
No, it's
Amtrak.
not really working too well. There was good news for riders with the official announcement that Transit will add scheduled service to the 6 and 7 subway lines in April to coincide with the L train closure. I asked when the G's, the E's, G's, J's, N's, and Z's were going to be announced, and they will be announced in October. There is still time for that pick, so all of those lines will be getting extra service to coordinate the additional ridership they're likely to get with the Canarsie Tube shutdown. In addition, 7-line CBTC service will be turned on in late November, which will allow them to run 3 additional trains per hour. And this says service on the 7 line will increase by 5 morning and 9 evening round trips, while 1 morning and 1 evening peak trip will be added to the 6. The Staten Island Express bus redesign has been the subject of some controversy, as a number of riders have complained of long walks to and from stops, increased travel times, missing and crowded buses, and many of them were on hand for yesterday's board meeting. On the other hand, some riders have been happy with the changes that began on August 19th, and New York City Transit has been very open to making changes to routes and service levels, with many modifications already made and others to be implemented on October 7th. What's special about October 7th?
A pick, I think.
It's a driver's pick.
Another pick?
I don't
It's a
know
driver's
what-
pick, yeah.
It's a pick, yeah.
Yeah.
Bus service improvements are on the agenda for Brooklyn as well. Select bus service will begin on the B82 on Monday, October 1st, and off-peak service on the B17 and B65 routes will be increased beginning Sunday, September 30. That's this Sunday. New York City Transit believes these routes have... Hello, Soul. New York City Transit believes these routes have potential for ridership growth outside of peak hours and both provide subway connections. The B17 serves riders who may be seeking alternatives to L subway service, and the B65 serves major shopping areas and event venues. New York City Transit is also in full swing in its efforts to reach out to riders through community meetings. President Byford is in the midst of a set of community conversations where he is explaining in each of the city's boroughs the benefits of its Fast Forward plan and building public support for the plan. That is, political support, so we can get funding for it. While a final dollar cost of Fast Forward has not yet been released, it's clear it's going to be expensive. Published reports put the cost in the $40 billion range. Bill Henderson attended the first session in Queens, and Chris attended the session in Crown Heights Tuesday of this week.
Yes.
Was it crowded?
It was, and I also was at Queens as well, but it was much more crowded in Brooklyn. It was like more, you could say there was more people than, there was a lot of seats filled up and a lot of people were there. But there was some scaredness from some people because of the rain.
Yeah,
But
it's a
it was
rainy
well
night.
attended. It was well attended, it was well answered. They even for the bus division, subway division as well.
Anyway, at the press conference after the full board meeting yesterday, President Byford was asked, have you secured funding? And he gave, words to the effect that we're working on it, we're getting our constituents all in favor of it. And several of the executives that I was standing next to agreed. There's a cost to not doing it. None of this gets cheaper as you wait longer. It gets more expensive. So there was a cost to not doing this as well. There are also community meetings underway to gather input on and disseminate information about the upcoming Bronx bus network redesign. The first of these sessions occurred last Thursday. There is a session each week until the final two workshops happen in the week of October 14th. We plan to attend several of these sessions and encourage all interested persons to attend a session as well. Staff can provide a schedule of these meetings in the Bronx.
There's one tonight.
There's another one tonight.
There's not tonight.
Finally, for those that have not been around, or I cannot imagine anybody in this room doesn't already know it, this is Bill's last meeting as Executive Director of the PCAC. His final day is a week from tomorrow, I guess. And then he's off for parts known and unknown. Yeah. Our staff has sent members an invitation to a less formal, an event that we're holding for Bill. If you haven't received this email, and there was a little problem with this email chimp program, let us know and we'll make sure you get an invite, because it would be great if everybody could be there. And that is it. Bill's replacement, or Bill, the new piece, let me put it this way, the new PCAC executive, because you can't really remember. Lisa Daglian came on board as of today. We think she will be at the meeting today. She's getting some introductory meetings with folks, but we expect her here today. So that's all approved, and she comes on board as of today on the payroll. So hopefully you will meet Lisa in a little while.
Already met her.
I met her yesterday too.
I knew her before.
She comes from several places, but she's most known for Nimtic, where she made a name for herself. She's also been a consultant for various companies that have done business with the MTA, so she's very familiar with the projects.
And I worked with her 35 years ago at the Department of
Oddly,
Sanitation.
Carol, that was not in her resume.
Yes, it was. In fact, it was. She worked at the Department of
Your name
Sanitation.
did not happen in her resume, I'm sorry.
Well, but we were
She
in the
was for
same.
sanitation, yes.
We were in the same group.
Yes, you cleaned up together. I
We
understand.
did.
It's there.
Huh?
Well,
We did.
it's just with this.
Yeah, no, we know she was in sanitation as well. She did attend yesterday's board meeting, and while yesterday's board meeting could be somewhat classified as a non-event because there were no giant announcements, Phil Eng did give a terrific presentation on improvements that are happening at the Long Island Railroad, one of which I never thought I'd see, electrification of the Central Branch, which is that track that diesel trains use between Hicksville and Babylon. You may know, if you ride any of those East End trains, the diesel trains, that they take two different routes via Babylon and Valley Stream up towards Jamaica, but some of them also go up northwesterly from Babylon to Hicksville and then go that route into Jamaica. Electrifying that will give the LIRR a lot of additional flexibility. There, of course, is the usual talk of possibly electrifying the Port Jefferson branch. I don't know if we'll live to see that, but I guess you could do it in stages. You could go beyond Huntington to Northport, you could go a little further. I mean, you could do it in stages, but the reason the Ronkonkoma branch and their parking lots are so filled is because people drive so they can get a one-seat ride. and not have to change from a diesel to an electric. And electrification of more parts of the Long Island Railroad would solve that problem and equalize the ridership a little bit. Did
A lot of money.
figure for
I
that?
don't think he gave.
I don't think he broke it down for that particular piece.
For that.
Um,
Yeah, the other
But it will
thing
save
is-
on efficiency too.
The other thing that would be important about that is you could have an electric yard out farther. There's extreme problems with getting a yard at Huntington because people with big multi-million-dollar houses
Yeah.
live near the train station.
Well, there was a whole blowback to any yard, a new yard at Port Jeff, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to cite a yard, I mean, especially, but,
Stony Brook, I guess maybe there might be.
yeah, I mean, maybe there's some, but you've got a better chance out farther than you do at Huntington.
Oh, yeah, well, Huntington is where the end of the electrification
Yeah,
is.
it's where
so,
electrification ends, and that's where the electric yard's gotta be,
Right,
which isn't
at the
much of
moment.
anything right now.
Yeah.
So Natasha sent Phil's presentation, so if anybody wants it, it's.
What presentation?
The LIRR presentation that
Oh.
Phil Lang gave at the board meeting, so I can forward it on. Please, Ellie, okay.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, let's see. Bill, did you want to say anything?
Lisa's on her way up.
Oh, okay.
Good. No, I mean, it's been quite a span of 14 years, and, you know, almost 11 as, you know, as executive director, and so, you know, it's there. I think one of the things that's interesting is a lot of the issues we started with are still there. I said,
Yeah.
I was going to say yesterday, you know, the first thing I worked on was new fair payment when I got here.
Yeah,
And,
well, hopefully you'll pay.
you know, a couple of years,
Take a trip back and see what it's like.
with luck, a couple of years will have it. Yeah, but the issues
It
stay.
starts next year in certain places.
Yeah. The issues are, you know, the issues are the same, and, you know, the big issue is money, and that's, you know, I mean, that's the one that's gotta be solved. Because you know, when you don't spend the money on maintenance and repair, it shows, and that's what we're living through now. So, you
That
know,
is indeed what.
I
we're
hope
living
that, I hope that everybody sort of keeps their eye on the ball on that, and on the council, and keeps pressuring our elected officials, talking to Marisol. Although you're not one of the ones with that would be looking at, where they'd be looking to for money. But yeah. They do anyway, they ask, you know, you ask everybody, they might have money left, you know, under the couch cushions or something like that. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, we're seeing what happens when you don't spend the money you have to spend to keep the system in good repair, so. Anyway, but it's been a pleasure, you know, enjoyed serving with all of you folks.
We appreciate the countless hours that you have put in. Can only imagine if our council gave you all of the things that we've been doing, what, you know, combine all three councils with something else. And I know how much the Long Island Council took of your time.
There's a lot of,
And I know.
And again, you know, actually,
Every
we
time I
didn't-
would
we didn't
call
mention
Bill,
this to Dee-
I would get, he's talking to Mom.
We didn't mention this to Lisa, but it's actually getting worse out on Long Island because they've discovered social media out there.
Yes.
And there's, you know, there's a group that I can't actually be a part of because I work for MTA, formerly worked for MTA, but it's called the Long Island Fail Road.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's quite a place, on Facebook.
I have definitely heard that.
But they will take pictures of and post any defect that they can find.
I'm just making a note, because I want to give you a complete board report. So, bear with me 1 second.
I'll just pull your leg. It was an interesting board meeting, just from the standpoint that a lot of the regulars were not there.
That is
There
true.
were, and several
Especially if Kevin
others.
wasn't working.
So you had someone, actually on the Metro North side, you had somebody giving a board report for an acting chairman who actually chaired the meeting.
Yeah.
Neil Zuckerman, who used to be one of our members long ago, delivered the report from Mitch Pally, who chaired the meeting but wasn't there yesterday, standing in for the
Yes. That was very unusual.
Yes, so that was an interesting, but yeah, but they did have a quorum, and and Phil's presentation, Phil Eng's presentation was something to see. It's a lot, at least the optics of the LIR are a lot different than they used to be. I'll say that.
Yes, they are. So let me amplify a little bit about things that were happening at the board. In addition to the Long Island Railroad plan, there was a lot of discussion of Penn access and what that will mean for Metro North's New Haven line. It is expected that when the 4 new Bronx stations, I wish Marisol was in the room, but she left. When this finally takes place, Co-op City, Parkchester, Van Ness, and Hunts Point, it will change an awful lot of people's travel patterns. When you can go from Co-op City to Midtown in about 22 to 23 minutes, which is what it will take via the Hellgate Bridge route, I think a lot of the Co-op City express buses might be done away with the exception of those that also drop people off on the Upper East Side, because if you were going to a hospital or something, that's being able to get out in the middle of the route and not go all the way to the end of the route is a distinct advantage. So. But I have a feeling that many Co-op City residents will opt for this, especially if our Freedom ticket, now known as Atlantic ticket because of where it goes, but eventually if that can be used on those stations. Out of the 4 new Bronx stations, the only one that is really close to the subway is Hunts Point, which will be fairly close to the Hunts Point Avenue number 6 line station. The others are a sizable walk from the subway, so it'll be very interesting to see how that changes people's plans. Apparently, there is a real problem with payment of certain aspects of Penn access. Apparently, Amtrak is charging MTA for some of the costs of replacement of catenary in the Herald area, as well as the Pelham Bridge, which is in Pelham Bay Park, which is now carrying at least 4 of Amtrak's trains per hour. Why all of a sudden the MTA should be responsible for the replacement of that bridge is anybody's guess, and we heard yesterday that they were going to fight, and sharing at least. I asked Metro North officials if they had any idea what the proposed schedule would be like, how many New Haven trains would be using that bridge, and they will get back to us. But if it's still Amtrak, who is the lion's share of service over that, Amtrak, they told us, is allowing for a 35% increase in Northeast Regional and Acela's going over that bridge. So if they're going to do that, they've got to pay the lion's share of the replacement of that bridge. I think they would just be taking us to the cleaners if they expect that we are going to pay the entire replacement cost. Similarly, in the Harold area, there is still some track work that will need to be done, which will affect both Amtrak and Long Island Railroad trains, and it's not clear when that will be finished by, or who will have to pay for all of that. So we're waiting to see the answers to some of those things, but stay tuned. Yeah.
35% increase in the sum?
In the usage of an Amtrak service over that route on the Northeast Corridor.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from, unless that's part of Richard Anderson's plan to close the national network and concentrate everything on the Northeast Corridor, which is what he would love to do, which is a little ironic when you consider the folks that put the current president in office are in the place where all of those long distance trains make a lot of sense, like the middle of the country. So that would be really ironic if they were done away with under the terms of this president. But Anderson is from Delta. I guess he'd like to put a lot more people on the airlines. There are some places where those long distance trains. Oh, there's also a plan on the Southwest Chief to cut it between Albuquerque and a point in Colorado and substitute bus services, which would increase the length of your trip and would virtually kill that route. And even the elected officials out there, both senators from all parties, are dead against this, and so they backed off this for now.
So it'd be a through train, except you'd have to take part of it.
On a bus.
Or a bus.
It was a Chicago-LA train, but it becomes a Chicago to Colorado, to bus, to New Mexico, to a train, to LA.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
That's the Greyhound,
That's the most
Greyhound.
dumbest thing I ever
And
heard.
I really apologize, I meant to bring the Run newsletters with me today, and it just completely went out of my head, but I'll make sure the office gets them and puts them to everybody.
Andrew, that
Yes.
that 35% increase on Northeast Corridor, is that passengers or trains?
Passenger trains.
Well, I mean, is it an increase in the number of trains? Or
Trains.
Just
Service.
that? Okay. But that's not what there should be, what they're thinking about in terms of numbers of
Keep in mind,
passengers.
East Side Access is due to, if everything falls into place, come online in 2022. Penn Access would come in after that. So we're talking between now and 2023, for instance, or even 2024 for Amtrak to up their amount of service. And, you know, if demand is there.
Okay, but they don't have it broken out by whether this is an increase in the number of passengers that they're actually.
No,
taking.
trains.
Trains. okay.
Trains, absolutely trains.
Okay.
Yeah. And when Penn Access is in full swing, because you will now have service to Penn, you could conceivably have a through train that is jointly operated by Metro North and New Jersey Transit running from either Stamford or New Haven to Trenton, for instance. You could conceivably have those, which might,
Should have that.
yes, we should have that, because that might really induce people to leave their car at home. Princeton and Stanford have become large employment centers. If you can take one train between them, that might be really, and not the cost of an Amtrak train between them, I'm talking about. Because that's pretty high, if you have it booked.
Somebody that lived on the North Shore of Long Island and worked in Stanford.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still pushing for a Murray Hill, Queens to Murray Hill, New Jersey train.
There you go.
Of course, that one is catenary and one is not. All right, so let me see. There were other board items. Let me see. L-train plans, closure plans continue to be cemented, if that's a word. I don't know if you've seen the news reports lately, but
Yes.
people on East 14th Street are screaming bloody murder already about what has happened to their businesses, the condition and the time of the jackhammering and all of the work that's going on. That is preparation for the tunnel closure, but it is also preparation for the Avenue A entrance to First Avenue, which will be a totally accessible entrance. So, to get something good, sometimes you have to go through some bad. But the hours should absolutely have been worked out with the community. You should not be doing it. I think somebody reported that if your sleep hours require anything after 7 a.m. or before 6 p.m. or something, you're out of luck, because the noise is unbelievable. I assume this is going to be the case at the Bedford Avenue end as well, and I know that there is work going on at that end already as well. But North 7th Street in Williamsburg, that part of the east-west, is not as commercial as East 14th Street is, and those folks are really screaming. There's an additional bus, you probably heard, an L5 route from Canarsie to Eastern Parkway and Utica Avenue. I don't know why, but maybe because there will be the Livonia Junius transfer put into effect, it still might be faster to take the L train, which will be running to Rockaway Parkway, and switch at Livonia Junius for the IRT, but there will be some who will get on midpoint because the route is not going to parallel the L train, it might be worthwhile to. So we will see. They will judge each bus as.
Andrew,
Yes.
just to jump on, I knew about the L5 because it's part of, because.
You're a Brooklynite, you should know about the L5.
Well, of course, yes, you're right. But the concern is when the L does shut down for Manhattan, let's say Myrtle White House elevator is out, they're trapped. There is no other accessible connection. That bus is more for them to get to the next accessible station, which is Utica Avenue. You have seniors in Canarsie, you have people with disabilities live there. They need they want an L5, they're glad to see it running during rush hour, but every 20 minutes. It's supposed to be running local in Canarsie, at the Flatlands and Renton, then it goes shot right into Utica train station.
Well, we're gonna see.
Yeah.
When the next capital program is underway and the all-enclosed and accessible Livonia Junius connection is made, which won't be in time for this L train closure, obviously, that, you know, that will be an all-accessible route. You'll be able to switch there,
Yes.
and it'll be fine. But as of right now, you know, maybe that'll be a route that those folks who need the accessibility will take.
And they're actually, some of the officials are not like, they're like, first, one of them says, yes, we can't wait to have it. One person wasn't even sure. One was a congressperson. And we're like, have to remind this congressperson to really get his act together because.
I won't ask who it is.
I can say his name if you want. You already know he's tall. Unless you want to see his name.
Tell everybody.
Hakeem Jeffries, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, has really needs to put his dollar in here because the Canarsie community, Brownfield community, downtown have been complaining that he's done nothing for the community. Unless he puts something in with the L5, it'll be like God bless America for him.
Well, it's going to be, I predict, much as, hello.
Hello.
Folks, this is Lisa Daglian. Lisa, this is folks.
I apologize for my kindness, I was getting started. Yes.
But what I started to say was, as was the case with the Summer of Hell on Long Island, where they prepared for all these buses from Long Island Railroad parking lots, it is quite possible that they will be tweaking the bus service during the L train closure, because some of it may not be used to the extent. Would you want a 4 or 5 seat ride to work, or would you want a 2-seat ride to work? You know, a bus to a ferry to a bus to a train, just may not be that. Whereas, you know, if you're anywhere near a subway to another subway to get to your destination, I think will be the winning combination. In addition, I neglected to mention on the Long Island report, when Phil Eng was mentioning all of this, hopefully additional electrification, which will make for a 1-seat ride, I implored him to keep that same philosophy in mind when the Jamaica reconfiguration plan kicks in, and all of the folks who now have a 1-seat ride to Brooklyn, or at least an across-the-platform transfer, and will be made to go up over to Platform F and onto a shuttle train. That can be done away with a service plan in rush hour, and he said he would look at that, and that he has to look at that, because they will be real blowback from Long Island commuters. They have no idea this is coming. And a through service ride to Brooklyn is not foreclosed in any way by the track work they did on the eastern side of Jamaica. Not in any way. Even Pat Nowakowski, before he left, said that can be all done away with a service plan, adequate service plan. Otherwise, think about this. If you're on a crowded train from Babylon or Hicksville or wherever, on Huntington, and you have to switch, and your destination was Lower Manhattan, and you're made to switch at Jamaica and then an Atlantic Terminal for an already overcrowded subway train, wouldn't you likely stay on your train to Grand Central or Penn and then switch to one subway and get to? They have to account for that, and they're watching that very closely. So Phil Eng is very sharp, and he knows all the issues, and I think he's a real boon to the Long Island Railroad. And I think, although you've seen a lot of headlines about worse schedule keeping and all of this, I think you're going to see some really positive changes from President Eng. And he's very accessible. The Long Island Council has found him accessible. He's really accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's missing his beautiful view of the harbor now from when he was here on the 20th floor. Because he's right in the thick of it right now.
I think he's still partially.
He might have.
He's had that.
The last thing I wanted to talk about is actually the subject of our presentation today, which you will see in much greater detail. But the Subway Action Plan has been in effect for a while now. Needless to say, there has been a lot of questioning about why things haven't gotten better already. And does the rider see any improvement? And I've watched the interviews on television, and 2 out of the 3 riders are saying, we don't see any improvement. What improvement? There are a few that say, it hasn't gotten any worse. And 1 or 2 says, oh, maybe my commute got a little better. Not getting worse is actually an improvement, because the way things were going with the massive maintenance workers that were cut in 1991, not getting any worse is starting the road to recovery. As we were all talking yesterday during that press conference, we have to address this. Nothing gets cheaper the longer you wait. Nothing. Except maybe the Staten Island Ferry. That got cheaper. It used to have a fare on it. Now it's nothing. Yeah.
Well, we gotta pay,
It used to be a quarter rather.
we gotta pay 3 times too.
That's about the only thing that's gotten cheaper, I think.
We gotta pay Staten Island, the ferry, to the subway, we gotta pay 3 times.
But, so you'll hear in today's presentation, Sally will be addressing where they have done the work, the kind of work that's been done. If you look at the monthly statistics, because I asked this question, and it's not an easy question to answer, is it demonstrable that where you have worked on tracks, signals, water remediation, and car equipment, that you have seen an improvement in the statistics? And in some cases, yes, but that doesn't mean a signal that they've worked on hasn't failed again. It has. So you'll hear that in much greater detail, what they have to do. Obviously, President Byford says, we have to totally replace the signals. That's the key here. On the other hand, our signals are operating better than some newer systems like DC's, where they've had some really terrible fatal accidents, and a much newer system. Water has started to enter the DC system much earlier in its history than water started entering our system. But, you know, it's all relative, and we want the best system, because we should have the best system. So we will hear from Sally. Is she scheduled for 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Coincidentally, today is, maybe in about 30, 25 minutes, oh no, it's afternoon. It is open. 163rd Street, Amsterdam, on the C Line, one of the Enhanced Station Initiative stations, reopened today. So 110 and 163 Amsterdam have reopened. We are anxiously awaiting 72nd and 86th Street to reopen, supposedly in October, because the one line has really seen a real increase, and we really need it back, the Central Park West line. So with that, yes?
Do you have the dates for the east side lines or the 28th Street? Because there
I
are
don't
big
have the
crowds
dates.
at 33rd Street.
And, you know, 23rd Street and 57th on the
Yeah.
6th Avenue line too.
Yeah, that's
I don't have a date for that, but I have seen the signage that all said October for 72nd and 86th. But they also said October for 163rd, and that's open today, so.
Right, right.
Yeah. However, a train I was on today, because I went a different route, went by 72nd Street, and the sheathing that's normally up to prevent you from seeing what they're doing there was not there. And it doesn't look anywhere near like it's ready. It doesn't look anywhere near like 72nd is ready, so. So hopefully, that will happen.
I mean, that stuff's really there, it's really there to keep people working on the tracks from going, straying into the.
The last thing I should add was a little thing about Metro North, which Randy and Oren have been very involved in.